You ready?
I'm ready.
I think you should lead this. I have plenty to say.
You always say that.
Yes, but I really mean it today.
I mean, together.
But before we start, are you in agreement with that?
I'm not. Well, we just gonna have a conversation.
Yeah, and because you started the conversation, you just lead us in.
I always lead us in. You always ask me my perspective before you give insight.
Because it's natural. I give the title, and then the first thing that comes to my mind is like engaging you. But I have several videos that I've edited, and I jumped in and started with some opinion.
Several, I think that's a stretch. A few maybe. I don't know about several. I don't know about several, but
Go back and look. Go back.
okay.
Fine. Let's get started.
Take one.
Hi, and welcome to Black in Business, where the possibilities are limitless. I'm your host, the Eunice,
And I'm Miss G.
and today's topic is: Are you sitting on your gifts?
I think that is a um. Some people can take that as a loaded question.
Right, right.
Because I think some people haven't established what their gifts are.
Mm.
I truly believe that God gives us each our own unique gifts. Like that's just the way He created us, which plays a part in us walking in our purpose. Um, but um, I'm actually excited to talk about this topic because, as we were just talking about, I recently finished a book where they're giving a few pillars about life, and the guy basically made reference to using your gifts to help other people. And so he posed the question of like, um, how many how many people are suffering
Mm.
because you're not basically walking in your purpose. You're not using the gift that God gave you. And I feel like when you look at it from that perspective, you always hear older people say, you know, keep living, right? Because there are things you experience as a kid that as you get older and you hear people talking, you're like, I don't know what that's like because I've never experienced it. But if you
Mm.
keep living, you eventually will get to a point to where you experience it. And so I think knowing that your life is not about you, I think that takes, a whole lot of self-reflecting and maturity. But when you pose the question like how many people are suffering
Mm.
because you're not, using your gifts, it really makes you reflect and think like, whose life could I be enhancing? Who could I be helping if I were to use the gift that God gave me? If I were truly walking in my purpose, how many lives could be changed? And so that's one thing I really love about, our business model, which I want to publicly congratulate you on your first milestone. Um, I feel like the more we build business, um, the more I truly understand how many lives I can truly affect. And I say time and time again, when I was in corporate America, I didn't have that effect. So I'm always in awe of being able to reach people that I normally wouldn't have crossed paths with, and to be able to add value to their life. I love that I can help, you create a future for you and your son, and that can last, him and his kids or his grand. I love that. And working a job, I couldn't do that. So I truly see it from a different perspective now, because now that I am walking in my purpose and I am seeing how much reach I have, I am seeing how many lives I can affect just by doing the things that God has put on my heart. I truly understand that not utilizing your gifts, there is someone somewhere, you may not know them at the moment, but there's someone somewhere that's suffering because you're not doing what God created you to do. And I think if more people really realize that or take that perspective of like, man, the ideas that I keep coming up with that I don't act on, who could that be helping? I feel like there are a lot of people that's like, oh, I thought of this invention, And then 5 or 10 years later, somebody invented, and you like, I thought about that a few years ago. Well, why didn't you follow through with it? Because inventors are just people that come up with solutions.
I like that.
If you were more diligent about acting on the things that God put on your mind and heart, you never know, what kid that you're going to inspire, or what other inventor that's going to come up behind you and create something, 10 times better, but they were inspired by you and they saw you do it, so they knew that they could do it, So I just think overall, everyone has a talent, everyone has gifts. And when you truly tap into that and say, I'm going to use my gifts to help the next person, you will be amazed at all the things that come from that. You'll be amazed at all of the ideas that can sprout from that, all of the encouragement that can sprout from that, all of the success. I mean, everyone has their own definition of success, right? But I definitely think that if you just tap into it, gotta take care of it. He already gave you everything, so it's already done. as I learned the hard way. As I learned the hard way.
Hard way for you too.
It's already done. So just act on the things that he puts on your heart and on your mind, because it's not happenstance. That's not by accident. He didn't give you that idea just for you to blow it off. He didn't give you that gift just for you to keep it to yourself. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before, but I really learned my own purpose at a conference about 2 years ago. And I feel like it really hit me that God created me on purpose with a purpose. And once I realized it, that's made a world of difference just in my efforts, because I genuinely know that I have to go find the people that he wants me to help. He did not create me in all of this fabulousness to just keep it to myself. I meant to help so many other people. So, well, with that said, since I kicked us off,
you did a great job.
let's go to the biblical reference.
And so I can't do this without bringing in a biblical reference, because at our core, that's where we come from. We come from the Creator. We were created, and I love this. We were created not only in his image and his likeness, but in his heart. We were created in the depths of his heart. And he is a creator. That's not all he does, but that is the core of what is in him, is creating and creation. And so of course he created us, and he put it in us, and he wants us to use it for a purpose. I am not a concert pianist. That's not the gift he gave me, but the purpose that he put on inside me that comes out, of course, is science, of course, is teaching. I glow in that. I like it. It seems to just infuse me more when I use what is on the inside of me. And of course, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And see a man, that's Proverbs 22:29, see a man skilled in his work. He will serve before kings. He will not serve before obscure men. And there's tons more. Them just the two that popped in my head from jump, right? But I want to touch a little bit on one of the points that you made, that a person will have an idea, and then they don't do anything with it. And then a few years down the road, they'll see that idea come to fruition. When I was coming up in school, they would say, girl, school it tried to serve its purpose, but there's so many deficiencies. But they used to say it's a lot of ideas in the grave. And for a long time, I believed that. And now I don't. It's not a lot of ideas in the grave. Them ideas went to somebody else that would bring it to fruition.
Right. Right.
So that was such a revelation to me. No, those ideas, because you make the point. You had the idea and you passed on it. You general, not you,
Right.
and you passed on it, and then down the line you see it and came out. That could have been you.
Right.
So my question, my rhetorical question that I'm also going to answer is, what stops you from walking in the purpose that's on the inside of you? And for me, mine was fear. Before I became an educator, I was working for the government, and I hated that job. It drained our life out of me. It was a needed job for the problem that was created. But it was such a drain on me, and I would do a lot of traveling in my job. I mean, by car, by airplane, by whatever means. I was always traveling. I love travel, so that it wasn't that I didn't like travel, but it was a draining job. And when I'd be on the road, and I'm driving all over Texas, I'm driving in other states, I'm seeing billboards. I mean, every single time I'm seeing billboards that says "want to teach," as if the sign was not big enough. I mean, every single time. It was a billboard literally at the corner of the main highway of my house. And what's funny is I did want to teach. And I had never really taught before, but I on the inside of me that just felt like, yeah, I want to do that. And guess what? I didn't. Because I was afraid. I was afraid to transition. I was afraid to step away from a job without having another job. I didn't know the steps to become a teacher, even though the gigantic billboard that said "want to teach" and had like a website. That paralyzing fear that I had, because I'm in a job, I have my insurance, I have a decent paycheck, I'm able to live. That is the box I was stuck in. I cannot stress that enough. That uh, I don't like to advocate that we're like conditioned, but we in my life that's exactly what it was. I
Mhm.
had followed the steps to go from being in school to having a career. Nobody ever said change it or move it. It was always stay in that place, working to retirement. So I was definitely conditioned, and even though I'm seeing a billboard that seems to be pulling at something on the inside of me, and I'm not going to say something that was pulling at the purpose that was on the inside of me, the fear is what was keeping me from doing that. And it hits home when you say, how many people suffer because you're not living your purpose, because you're not achieving your purpose. How many classes, how many students did I miss because I tried to stay in that box?
Right.
And when I tell you I had to get let go from that position
Mhm.
before I ever looked at anything else, I had to be let go from that position.
And that was God saying, since you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
closes a door no one can open. He closed that door. I mean, he closed it and locked it. And then didn't make any other way. I could not get a job in anything else but education. That was crazy to me. But then again, it's not. That was literally God, who
I,
I I have to say I appreciate that, because he saw my ignorance and was like, you know what? Let me just go on and help her. Let me go and close that door. So that fear, it was a paralyzing fear,
yeah.
So
And I think more often than not, when we do hold on to things so vigorously, it completely misses us that if God is saying close this door, He has prepared another door that's far greater than this door. But
yeah.
because that's what we're used to, because that's our routine, we want to stick with that.
Because we don't know what's outside of that.
Right. But completely missing the signs, right? Like you said, you were seeing billboards as you were traveling. It was one right by your house. It's like, he like, how many signs could I give you? Which again makes me think about this podcast, as I just stated. You know, before we start this podcast, having multiple people suggest that I do a podcast, I was shooting. Listen, when I say shooting down left and right, it wasn't even going in one ear and out the other. It didn't make it in one ear for it to go out the other. It was just automatically blocked down. And then here comes this person that I've never met. Yeah, it's like, hey, I think it'd be really great if we start a podcast, because we could help people that, you know, that may be thinking about taking this journey, taking this path. And I'm like, yeah, but, and immediately was like, oh, but I can do that. I got that. And if I need any help, I got some people that'll help me. Got some people. Okay, I done gave you these signs. I done put it in multiple mouths, and you disregarded that. You completely disregarded all my signs. What's your excuse now? Because I already fixed your problem. What's your excuse? Okay, I hear you. My bad. I hear you. I'm gonna be here. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I'm gonna be here because I now see that was on me. You gave me all these signs. You gave me all these people that said the same thing. All these people don't know each other, have not had conversations. So why it took you so long to register, I don't know. But that last time, it was like a punch in the face, like, girl, I'm talking to you. I got it the last time though. So thankfully we're here. But I definitely think that, like, you know, in most cases it's not intentional, right? It's just a matter of we're so used to whatever we're already doing. But I think that fear is also attached to control.
You think so? She's saying that because she think I always want control.
I do think so. I think when you feel like things are out of your hands, oftentimes that's unsettling. And you feel like you're putting your future in someone else's hands. But there's no better hands to put it in than God's. And considering you are, if don't nobody know nothing about you, they know you're a believer. The amount of scriptures that you can pull up, although you swear up and down, you don't know all of them.
I don't.
I'm still not convinced. I just want to put that
out. You examples.
As much as you say it, I'm still not convinced. But if they don't know nothing, they know that you're a believer. So keeping in mind that, like, okay, God got me covered. I think that's something that always, you know, we need to be more intentional about having in the forefront, because even the times that feel like your world is crumbling, he's still always there. Yeah. And, you know, given my recent life events that took place, I definitely feel like everyone has those moments where they feel like the ground is being pulled from underneath them. You may have deaths in the family. You may have repeated deaths in the family. Yeah. You may lose a job. It's so many things that are considered tragic and trauma. And you, in that moment, in that season, you feel like, what am I gonna do? How is this gonna work out? But it was already worked out before you even entered that season. But I feel like that's definitely something that's hard to, that's something that's hard to not necessarily come to terms with. Even when you are in a season, there can still be progression. And oftentimes, because we are so wrapped up in our emotions or our thoughts or our fears, sometimes we can't see the progression. We can't see that God has been with us the entire time, that God has been the reason that we are getting through the season. In that moment, a lot of times you're so distracted that you can't see that. But I feel like I've definitely had enough seasons to fully comprehend that you can still move forward, even if you don't know what moving forward look like.
So many of us don't feel like we can. For me, I think we grew up in survival mode. We had a good family for the most part, but then our mom got sick and her and our dad divorced, and we were preteens, at the time. Actually, yeah, preteens. And she checked out. And so we doing the best we can in that. And I was an adult, and I think I was teaching by this time, and I had had a full other career and graduated from college twice at that point before I realized I was still living in survival mode. And so it was like, first we had to get our mindset out of that.
Yeah.
Like, you're okay. But that was like, you couldn't afford not to pay a bill. You couldn't afford to walk away from something stable because you didn't like that. We were in survival mode. So we had to get out of that. But you made a point. You said sometimes we're just doing what we know. This is what we know. And in the book of Hosea 4 and 6, I'm looking at it. I'm not just quoting it. It says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So I mean, so I think that's so poignant that it's true. We think, first of all, we're trained. This is the path, and that path puts a lot of us into debt for the rest of our lives,
Which is intentional.
of course. And then you think, okay, I've made it here, but like for me, something else might be calling you on the inside, and you haven't been trained to know how to step into things without that fear, or step into the unknown, because maybe you're like me, and you were in survival mode. But it's not too late. As long as breath in your body, it's not too late.
Right.
And thank God, like I wasn't thinking of doing a business. I was happy to be an instructor. And now, because I was given this path with these partners, it actually opened up a way for me to still be an educator, but on my own terms.
Right.
And so this path has definitely opened up a, a lot of other doors for me. And it wasn't too late, which is I thank God for. Um, because it can be like in the story of Esther. Yes, I knew it was gonna be a lot of scripture today. She was put in a very precarious, very dangerous position, and her uncle gave her some advice as she was mulling over what to do. He said, for the people of Israel, the Jews, deliverance was going to come, whether she did it or not. Deliverance was going to come for them, but he couldn't guarantee her life. Her life would most assuredly be taken. And it goes right back into that purpose. Those things that's calling from the inside of us, it doesn't go to the grave. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to come out, because that's the purpose of the Lord, and he wants to bring it out through you. And it does it to me. I think it blesses you way more than anybody else. But when I can only talk about fear. When we operate in that fear, when we operate and just stay in ignorance, we do miss the people that we were supposed to help. But,
Absolutely.
but God doesn't.
Absolutely.
God does not miss those people. We will
Absolutely.
have. But I get. I'm
But I wanted to touch on before we started recording, we were talking about the job that you had, the government job that you had, and how much you traveled. And you made the statement that you don't like to say that we're conditioned, but we are. And it made me think about, with you working that government job and traveling so much and you hating it, that was another way to keep you distracted from your purpose, right? Mm-hmm. So the bigger picture, you couldn't see people that you were meant to help during that season of your life because you were constantly on the go. You were constantly doing something that you didn't want to do, but you feel like we needed to do.
You had to.
I feel like that's another part that I feel like neglect to talk about is whenever you do have a bigger purpose, whenever you do have something inside of you, a calling, oftentimes the enemy, whether you want to consider that the devil, whatever your definition of the enemy, will come along to distract you and make you feel like this is the only option I have, so I can't look at nothing outside of it. And as long as you are bogged down with that thought process, you're going to continue to have the ideas. You're going to continue to have that pull inside. But you have to make a decision that even though I don't know what's on the other side of this, I still got to see it through, because God has put this in me for a reason. And I think that, again, if more people had this realization, more people will be better off, because more people will be helping more people, So I think that that's all a part of, the bigger scheme, so to speak, is if I'm keeping you busy and I'm constantly keeping you on the go, and I have you going from state to state, or every time you get home, I'm giving you another project to do. You don't have time to think about, well, what is God calling me to do? Or what is this pull on the inside? What ideas do I have? Because you're so bogged down with your day to day. And I feel like that definitely is a part of the conditioning. Like that's another thing that's not happenstance. That's done intentionally, because that's going to keep you from truly walking in your purpose. And if I can keep you from doing that and keep you at whatever position you're in, keep you in this box that I've groomed you to think that you belong in, ultimately, like, the enemy has won.
You don't even want to give him that much credit. Thank God that God closed doors.
Right.
those closed doors,
right,
are a blessing.
Absolutely.
We get so angry with God, and those closed doors are a whole blessing, just as much as the open doors. The closed doors are a blessing.
However, you have to prepare yourself to receive those blessings. If you can't see that as a blessing,
because
you have not prepared yourself.
No, I wasn't prepared. All those not prepared out there. No, I was not. But God still made a way. Do you know we didn't miss a bill?
Right.
I think I was unemployed for, it was maybe 2 months, and I had 2 months worth of pay. And when them 2 months started to dwindle, I was offered a job in a school, in an elementary school. It just like that. That was nothing but the Lord.
Right.
And I want to, and can you believe we have like 3 minutes left?
Really? I feel like we just started.
So I'm trying to make this point quick. What was I gonna say? I got distracted. One disclaimer: I liked the travel. I did not like the job. That's
right. Well, being able to travel of your own free will versus being forced to travel to do a job and being controlled by that, that's two different things. Because when you travel for a job, you don't really get to enjoy traveling.
I don't know. I enjoyed it pretty much. I'd have to drive to Austin, to San Antonio.
Do you like to drive?
I like to ride. So at the time, my husband would drive.
Oh, okay.
you
just like road trips.
I love it. To this, I am coming to Texas this summer, and have I not already?
Yes.
Planned for
a whole tour. A whole tour.
Yes. And I don't have a driver's license anymore. Fun fact.
Still riding.
I won't be driving. I probably won't be driving. I'll be riding around, but I'll be cheering on whoever is driving. I don't even remember my point. That was hilarious. And it's oh man. So I'm gonna leave it right there, because what was the point? It was good too. It'll come back. It'll be a different episode, but it'll come back.
Listen, and then I don't remember what we were talking about.
It was that I found it controversial, and I kept thinking I'm gonna have to put a controversial notice on this, because this is my controversial opinion. I think a lot of depression and a lot of that, the constantly searching for things and seeking things and trying to find something to give you fulfillment and enjoyment is coming from you not walking in your purpose. I
Right.
mean, I know depression is a clinical and can be a clinical and mental thing, but I am not convinced that every single one is. I do believe that sometimes it's because that person is not walking in their purpose and they're trying to find it everywhere. They may not even be trying to find it. They're working that government job like I had. It's overworking them. They're tired. They don't even like it, and then they'll go home and watch Netflix, or they'll go home and binge watch, Hallmark, or they'll take a trip to Jamaica. Like, we're gonna try to do everything we can to fill that void, or to make those feelings that depression, or they'll go away, when really the antidote is walking in your purpose.
The feeling of unfulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
It's
Yeah.
and it's ironic before we land the plane. It's
Yeah.
ironic that you said that, because I actually recently, last week, I believe, on my social media, I posted a poll asking people like if they are passionate about what they do. And I think maybe like 72% said absolutely. I think 18% said somewhat, and 8% said absolutely not.
Mm.
And I feel like there are so many people that have jobs or even careers, and because they have not figured out what their purpose is,
Mhm.
they lack that fulfillment. They lack that excitement about life and about what they do. There is no passion because they have no true connection to it. And you have some people, especially I've seen in other cultures like Nigerian, like African, even like Vietnamese, those children are groomed to like be doctors and to be have these prestigious careers, but then oftentimes they'll have doctor degrees and PhDs, and it's not something they wanted to do out their life. It's something they've been told they were going to do. So they did what they were told, and then they get these degrees and they're making, however much money, but they're still not happy.
Yeah.
There's still that void. And so I feel like, again, if more people would just tap into their gifts and understand that the gifts that God gave you, you can make money utilizing those gifts.
That's literally what he called for us to do.
He put them in you for a reason, and you absolutely can make a living off of that. But there are not enough people that are taught that at an early age. I feel like it has gotten to the point to where people have to live so much life and truly be dissatisfied with their life before then they start to search, well, what really makes me happy? What really am I passionate about? And for the 8% that said absolutely not, genuinely my heart went out to them, because I can't imagine feeling stuck, in something, and you've been doing it for 20, 30 years. Like, I think about like my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents working a job for, more than 50 years to retire. I cannot fathom doing such a thing because even when I joined the military at 18, I knew it had a deadline. So to go and work for someone else, that for sure is not my ministry. Again, not knocking people that do it. It's just not for me. But what I do now, it's already woven into my fibers. It's already who I am. So to be able to now make the connection of I can make income off of who I am as a person, listen, it don't get no better than that. Because I'm going to do this forever because I was doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can make money, so I'm absolutely going to do it even more. Mm-hmm. But then the lessons that come with it, and the fulfillment and the joy and the inspiration, all of that, I feel like you can't put a price tag on it. Mm-hmm. And I was even talking to one of our mentors earlier today, and just letting her know like how this past weekend, it filled me with such gratitude to know that by me sharing my giftings, it inspires other people. Yeah. And it helps them develop their giftings, or it helps them to recognize their giftings. And again, that's not something that I experienced in any other arena, not in the military, not in corporate America. So just to be able to see how my piece of the puzzle plays such a huge part in so many other puzzles.
Yep.
And seeing how big those puzzles are and how big they can become, it's truly mind blowing. And I feel like each time I'm like, this is amazing. I'm in awe, because I never would imagine that this was possible. So to be able to witness it, I absolutely love it. And I wish that everybody could experience it.
Everybody can. Everybody can.
Only people, again, that are open to it. Like, you have
everybody can, not everybody will.
True. But I just feel like it's just a lot of people that aren't even willing to, to hear these words. You know what I mean? There are so many people that are still so closed off. And I do understand that for some people, their ears will never open up. The way I said that, the suggestions for podcasts before, it wasn't even going in one ear, it was being blocked. There are some people that they're going to be like that until the day they die. They're not trying to hear anything other than their routine. And that's unfortunate, but I have just come to accept that what's meant for me won't miss me. And that applies to everybody else. Okay. What's meant to be will be. And regardless of how much you fight it, if God say, we closing this door and we opening this door, you gonna come along at some point. If he got to grab you kicking and screaming, you coming. Because that's what he wants.
It's a lot now. In the book of Genesis. I have a lot of it today. I warned you. But in fact, when you're talking about if your gift, if your purpose can make money for you, of course, Proverbs 31 woman that says she makes garments of purple and she goes into the marketplace and sells it. In Acts, there's Lydia. In the Judges, I believe there was Deborah. The men didn't even want to step up. She like, I'll do it. It's and it's women. So I'm all for the girls. But there is example after example after example that your gift makes room for you. I'm not saying that's the scripture, but I'm saying you don't have this so everybody else can benefit and then nothing comes back to you.
Right.
You have that and you utilize it to help others, but that it definitely comes back to you in the way of money. And the Bible says you can go from glory to glory. And that reminds me of you. I'm going to put this shameless plug because at first you couldn't see it. You did know that the military had an end date. And then you morphed into, oh, okay, I'm going to have a family. And then it was what I want to be at home with my daughters. I want to have a more free-field life. I want to control the narrative. So you became a businesswoman, and then you're like, I can do this with other people. I can teach people how to do that. So again, now you're mentoring several people, and your team just continues to grow. Well, and then you get a podcast. So now you get to reach even more people, and we're exposing it to more people. And now people are telling you to write a book.
Listen, I knew that was coming. I said, she gonna end it with this book. I already knew.
That's the next step. I don't know what comes after that television show. I don't know.
Now the difference is I'm not shooting it down. I'm just saying we'll see when it happens. The podcast, I was shooting it down. Again, I've heard multiple people say or bring up a book, and I'm not opposed to it. Gotta just have to. He'll facilitate it when it's supposed to happen.
I'm also a writer, so hey, I love making an outline. I do it all the time. That's what I do in my job. So I already have a pre-outline for you.
Okay. Okay.
It's what my brain naturally does.
Oh gosh.
It just keeps waiting. Wow. So I do have a pre-outline. We can discuss it off the record.
Okay. But listen, I receive all of it. I'm not shooting any of it down. I receive it.
Yay.
I have seen the error in my ways, and I know that God puts people in my path for a reason. So I receive it. And now again, I don't know what they look like, but okay. I'm open to it.
We don't have to know all the steps. Just
Correct.
the one in front of
Listen,
you.
I don't have to know none of the steps because again,
I like to know
the way
steps.
this podcast came together, I didn't know none of the steps, but we're here. And we
Yeah.
how many episodes in at this point?
I
So
counted 16 that we have released. We've recorded several more, many more, but
yeah,
we're up to like 16
yeah.
that
So
we actually released. Yay.
I'm actually pretty good with going with the flow of things. I can't say the same for one of us, but
She don't sometimes look in the mirror
yeah.
because your grandma needs an honorable mention in this book. I'm gonna need an honorable mention.
Listen, and I have no problem. I will list all the honorable mentions.
Yes, all of us. But
No issue.
I want to end my last note on this. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I think we could go another 30 minutes because as usual, I feel like we just scratched the surface. But what point was I gonna make with that? You say that you weren't hearing all these other people telling you to start a podcast, but there are times there are seeds that are sown and then those seeds are watered. So they didn't bring a harvest right away, but it definitely the seeds were planted, the seeds were watered, and when the time came, the harvest came. So I think now it's other seeds being planted. And this time the ground not as hard.
There are
Cool.
several seeds have been planted.
Yeah. So and the word says, break up that fallow ground. So it's been broken up and the seeds are planted, they're being watered, and they're gonna produce more of a harvest. And on that note, I am done for today.
And on that note, I'm gonna say one of your favorite things. We'll see how many apples comes from this seed. So, anywho, if you have enjoyed our conversation today, have found any of this helpful, or know someone that it may help, please like, share, comment, and subscribe because we are changing lives all 2025. We aim to just help people get out of their comfort zone and develop a different thought process, or just to become more comfortable with the idea of the narrative changing. So we want you to be a part of the conversation. If you have any feedback, whether good or bad, but respectful, please leave it in the comments. If you are not comfortable leaving a comment, feel free to email us. As you can see at the bottom of her screen, there is our email address. We will respond to emails as well because we want you to be a part of the conversation. We want to hear your perspective, and we just don't want it to be between the two of us. We want dialogue. We want feedback. We want to hear your thoughts. So with that, we will see you lovely people next week. And see.